Welcome, stranger. I'm kind of behind in my videos here on my channel. I've been busy the last week or so repairing knocker mats, which have been eating my lunch. And I recently started on a Minolta SRT101, and I've just got it torn down now. I've cleaned it and oiled it and made adjustments, and it's ready to put back together. And I thought now would be a good time to make a video, kind of walk you through it, show you what I've done to it, what I've worked on. And anyway, let's get started. All right, what should we start on here? I normally start with the top cover. Let's start there. Okay, here's the top cover, Minolta SRT101, as you can see. This customer unit was sent in. Unfortunately, the camera was in pretty poor condition inside, plus some other repairman had been inside it, and he didn't know what he was doing. And so I had to not only fix the worn parts of the camera, but clean up his mess. This flash shoe here on top was loose. Normally you tighten it with the screws right down there, but they are embedded up in the plastic and they'd pull loose. So tightening the screws didn't help. The flash shoe was still loose. So I removed it and put another one on it from one of my other cameras that I had. Okay, that's enough about that one. Okay, what should we work on next here? Look at next. Normally I look at the base plate when I'm making videos. On the Minolta SRT, that's the turns the camera on, the meter, off, on, battery check. This switch here on the bottom was in pretty bad shape. It was corroded. I had to replace it. The rest of the base plate is pretty good. As far as its condition, pretty good actually. Not a lot of scratches, no dings that I can see right offhand here. I'd have to say that's really a base plate's in pretty good condition. Okay, let's move on. Okay, what do we look at next here? Film door. This is not the original. On the original camera there was rust right along the edge here, which happens quite often in these older cameras. Why they rust there, I don't know. They're down on the channel, they're touching the foam, and they corrode first. The paint comes off, the metal's showing, and they get rust on them. And it's really hard, let's switch cameras here. It's really hard to, you have to remove the paint, what's left there, and the rust with sandpaper, and then repaint them. And the trouble is that the paint will not stay. The factory paint is baked on, and the kind that you put on with a brush and can buy, epoxy paint probably works pretty good. I've used some in the past, but normal paint doesn't work too good. So I find it easier just to get a film door off another camera. I say a film door, yeah, that's a film door. Wake up here in a second. It's easier than just trying to paint one. The leather was coming off of here at the end, on both ends, and I had to peel it off and re-glue it back on, which is normal for some cameras. Some are worse than others, but this was the used film door that I replaced the original with, and the customer said it was okay. I could replace any parts I wanted, so there was no problem there. Okay, let's move on to something else. Next, we're going to be looking at the front cover. I tend to, when I'm working on these, when I'm filming these cameras, to pick the least important parts first, such as the top, bottom cover, film door, and then work my way into the more important stuff. On the Minolta SRT, this front plate goes on. This is where your lens mounts. And there's a lot of stuff on here, actually. This right here, when you push it in, stops down your lens. So you can check, it might be, in case you might want to check your depth of field. This right here is your self-timer. It's mechanical, but this is a mechanical camera. I flush it with naphtha and oiled a few of the gears on it. It usually doesn't need much of anything. I had to replace this up here. I had to replace this lens lock. Sometimes the customers will force it and damage the end of this, and they get, you can see brass where the metal was shaved off. And so you have to replace it with another one that has a nice, good square end for the lens lock into. To remove the lens, push up, it unlocks the lens comes out. When you put the new lens in, it just pops into place. This over here is the flash plugs, PC plugs. You can see the contacts there that go to the camera. Normally, when you're, let's try another camera. Normally, when you're plugging your PC plug in and out, it wears out here. And after a while, the plug does not stay in. It can easily fall out. So this plug normally always has to be replaced on the SRTs. This one up here is your FP plug, and it's never used. So what I do is switch them out. I put the one that's never used down here, and this one up there. And that usually takes care of that problem. I also have spares if I need it, but usually I just do it that way. I've never had any complaints. And let's see, what else? Is there anything else? This switch right here is for your, there we go, is your, to put your mirror up. If you are taking a picture like maybe stars or planets, you want to put your, well, come on. Come on. Don't want to cooperate, huh? Why are you? Oh, okay. Excuse me. Sorry. You want to flip your mirror up so when you trip your shutter, you don't shake your camera. And then put your mirror back down to normal shooting. Embarrassing. Well, I never use it. Never did anyway. It goes to a little stud right here. Okay, that's it. That's the front plate. Let's move on. All right, what do we look at next here? I was just showing you the front cover here. This goes over it like so. Move that to the side. And there's nothing special about this. Just needs to be cleaned. Check it for dings. Set that aside. And let's see, let's pull it back over here. This right here is your f-stop follower. When you change the f-stop on your lens, it turns this ring. This ring controls a little string that goes up there, goes up to your meter and moves your needle. And quite often on the SRTs, if the camera's pretty old, this follower is dirty. And what'll happen is that as you change the speed on your lens, this follower would not follow the lens. It'll get stuck in one position or it'll drag. So it always has to be cleaned up. Make sure that there's no damage to it or it'll mess up your meter settings. Let's go to this. This is the what your lens mounts to. The one on this particular camera had brassing. Whoever had owned the camera before, or maybe the customer, was constantly changing out the lens, maybe telephoto, wide angle, whatever. And he'd really put some wear on it. The chrome had come off, brass was showing. So I retired it and got this one off another SRT and put it on there. Took a beating on this camera, had to replace a lot of parts. That's the end of that. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at here is the, get the camera right. This mirror cage was in the camera, and I pulled it out like so. Set that aside for now. And it has to be cleaned and inspected. This right up here is a dampener that the mirror hits against. If it didn't have a dampener, the mirror would shake the camera when it hit the top. And at a low shutter speed, like a 30th of a second, yeah, the camera would shake slightly and blur your picture. See all the gears here? Their main purpose is basically just to flip the mirror up, then release it. And can I charge it, or is it charged? It's charged already. Okay. And if I flip this lever right here, it will pop up and bang, there it goes. And as you can see, it hit the little dampener here at the top. The foam along the dampener has to be replaced, and it has to be cleaned on both sides to make sure it's not sticking, which happens after a lot of use. It'll stick in the up position. And the release. The release is a little more difficult. Let's see. It is right here. That's down. And here. Down. And now the mirror is down. And that's pretty much all there is to the mirror cage. There's foam along here that has to be replaced all the way around. For the viewfinder. Okay. And that's all there is to the mirror cage. Set that aside. And the last thing we'll discuss is the main body. This paper here covers the shutter. I discussed that in another video. This right here is your film. The shaft sometimes has to be replaced on these cameras. They're brass covered in chrome, and sometimes they get scored. This one was okay. This part right here is your slow speed governor. From a 1/30 of a second down to 1 second, this engages. Your advanced lever, of course. I had to replace the nut here that holds it down. The one that came with the camera was all scored up. I don't know how they scratched it up. And let's see, let's switch cameras here and see if I can get a little closer. If my focus will cooperate with me. Roller. Bottom here, you can see right down inside there, that has to be oiled. Same way with up here. And then you can't see it as well, but oil has to be there, there, and same way on the other side. 2 rollers, and it has to be oiled here, 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 and down here. Sorry. I'm looking at a screen and coordination's off. This particular shaft here and here dry out quite often and will affect the shutter speeds. And so it's important that those be oiled. The others usually are okay, but those 2 points are not. Some customers want me to work on the camera and not pull the mirror cage, and you really can't service these old SLRs unless you pull the mirror cage so you can get to the rollers. They have to be oiled. And some of the factory manuals, it says they don't, but that was only if the camera was going to last 10 years, 20 years. But some of these cameras are getting out to 40 years old now, and they have to be oiled. I've tested them on the shutter, so I know what I'm talking about. This right here is your flash contacts. I was showing you the PC connector first. It goes to here. And when the shutter's fired, these contacts here are what trips the flash when the shutter's open. And there's not much else to see here. This string right here on the front, I've got it taped down, goes to the meter. When you're working on the camera, you need to tape it down or it'll become unraveled. It runs around this and this, and if it unravels, then it takes extra work to put it all back together. And let's see here, bottom. I had to replace this battery compartment. It was had acid damage, which is pretty common on a lot of these old SLRs. And you can try to clean them up, but it's better just to replace them if you can. And let's see, what have we got over here? Some, let's see. This right here for your curtain times. You have your opening curtain, your closing curtain, and you have to have a tester, of course, but you need to get them to where they're both going the same speed. And I'll do that on reassembly. I can't do that now with the camera disassembled. One of these is the battery voltage. I forget which one. And that's pretty much it. That's your SRT body, torn down and adjusted, oiled, cleaned up. Foam here and there. Foam, where's the foam? Tracks, I've already done that. The foam has to be removed and then replaced with the proper foam. A lot of people do not use the correct foam. And I'm having some trouble here. Let's try another camera. Right here is the foam that goes across, and the film door presses against it to keep light out of the back of the camera when you're taking pictures. And that's pretty much it. I don't think I've got much else to show you about the SRT without going deeper and taking another hour, and that's probably long enough. Okay, let's move on. Okay, move on to the next object. Camera parts. This right here is the screen for the SRT. If any of you out there have had SRTs, you recognize the scale at the bottom where you have your shutter speeds that you see through the viewfinder when you're looking through it. Let's see if the other camera works any better. Yeah, see a little bit better there. 1000 on the left, over to 1 second or B on the right. The screen, what you're looking at is the glass there. The screen is right here. It's plastic. You got to be very careful with that. When you're working on the camera, you touch it, you've damaged it. It's the same in all these SRTs. And wanted to show you this part before I quit. The meter goes right here when it's installed, and the needle moves up and down. And then you use the target, put the target over the needle in your exposure set. Well, of course, you might first want to set your shutter speed. You can control the needle with shutter speed or the lens aperture. Okay, that's enough of that. Anyway, I guess that's about it. So, hope you enjoyed the tour of the SRT and all its wonderful inside parts. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Later.